is they contacted the FBI directly. Major, massive insurance company. People are gonna listen. They contact the FBI, and they make claims. Well, so the FBI, this is stuff I know in hindsight. Obviously, I did not know it at the time. They're gonna jump on that. It's not just a citizen calling it in. This is a major, major reputable uh, insurance company saying that in another medical company is taking advantage and that I need to be looked into. So they're gonna go. That's how they get paid. That's how the FBI gets paid. Um, they basically work on a commission type thing. So they want to get people who are committing fraud because if they get them convicted, they get, commission and bonus, and this is how their livelihood, which I think is ridiculous. You make money off of destroying people's lives. That's real cool. But that's what they do. So, and sometimes it's needed. I'm not saying it's all bad, but in my case, it was just absolutely absurd, and I have since learned that this happens to a lot of people, and it's really unfortunate. So they informed me at that time, the FBI did, that they were raiding all of my clinic right then and there. And they were taking everything, and they would like to meet with me, and that their headquarters were right next to the Portland airport. So since I was in San Francisco, I could just fly in that same day and they could meet with me. And I'm like, "How do you know I'm in San Francisco?" Because I went back and forth all the time. There was no set schedule. It was kinda where I was needed is where I would go. So I'm like, "You're following me." I didn't say this out loud, but in my head, immediately, I'm like, "Oh, they're watching me, they're following me." So I didn't wanna do the plea deal. I was like, "This is BS. Absolutely no way. I mean, all of this is crazy. I am not pleading guilty. Are you kidding me?" And they highly advised that I do. And then they're like, "They're gonna come after your family, your friends, anyone that was ever connected to you and the business, ever. They're going after them just the same. It Do not do this. If you want to, we'll represent you, but we're highly advising you to not do this." So I got sentenced to federal prison and I was just like in shock. I was just like, how could they do this to me? So I went to federal prison. It ended up being I was sent to the Dublin federal prison in Dublin, California. And it was just horrible. It was like, it was a rancid place. It was absolutely disgusting. There was mold everywhere. The guards were mostly all men, and they were very abusive, mentally, sexually, um, just every which way. It was horrible. We were yelled at constantly. We were told that we were ugly and fat and horrible and cursed at, foul language, but like yelling, so men yelling at you like constantly. And there was a lot of sexual abuse that was going on.
So what I'm gonna say is,
Now, maybe I will put this at the end of the interview when I edit it. Yes, yes, I will, but I don't want to forget. So, looking back at your story, being falsely accused, falsely charged, and dealing with the system that was so unfair that it's almost hard to believe, what advice would you give to fellow business owners who are taking the risk of becoming an entrepreneur, are very ambitious, essentially want to help the community, but but there is this risk on the table that you can actually get charged and sent to federal prison without doing anything just because you cross paths with the wrong people that are too big. What advice would you give them?
Um, that's a really good question. So I always think, and I've been asked, would I do the same thing again? Would I fight an insurance company, or would I have just, if I knew what I knew now, would I just stay silent and let them, close me down on their own? They ended up closing me down anyways. Um, but honestly, you for me, you just can't be like that. if somebody is doing you wrong, you gotta stand up for yourself, and, I'm willing to take the risk. I was willing to take the risk, I'm still willing to take the risk in the future. If someone is trying to bully me and, trying to, railroad me and, shut me down or make me be quiet or silent, for their own benefit, for no other, I'm probably still not gonna be silent, and I'm probably still gonna go forward, I'm probably gonna still take the risk. So, my advice would be just that know that there are consequences to, obviously, your actions, and, weigh the pros and cons. For me, I would still do the same thing that I did. Um, I learned a lot through what I went through. I don't regret that. It has not been fun. I cannot lie. It's been horrible. But I have a lot of respect for myself for standing up for myself and not letting somebody just bully me and try to take me over for their own gain. So advice, just know your pros and cons and, weigh them out, and if it's still worth it to you to go forward and to fight someone that is being unfair to you, then go forward. If you're not willing to take the risk because the risk is too high, maybe you have a family, there's it's just not worth it, then, look at another route. That would be my advice. For me, I would still go forward in fighting them, even knowing what I know now, I still would.
I think your life improves a lot. Just how you feel when you go through life. I think that if you keep your expectations realistic, you're gonna come off so much better. So if you go into the world knowing that it's not gonna be fair, or if you go into a job, a business, a lawsuit, knowing that it's not going to be fair, you're much better off. I actually studied criminal law, and in my life, I haven't worked much in it though. But I learned that justice doesn't ask what you did; it asks what can be proven and what can be threatened. So when businesses disputes become criminal referrals, the battlefield changes from evidence to endurance. And the plea deal is not a confession of guilt, it's actually a confession of fear. And I think that once you have this in mind going into the criminal case, yeah, you're gonna be so much better off because it's 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 just it's a game, and it's a game of strategy, and I think you should play it that way. And if you think that you're gonna be there telling your story and then the judge is gonna pursue the truth, that's just not gonna happen. Yeah, as I said before, I really do wanted to have you on this show because you have one hell of a story. You were a successful medical business owner, and you fought the insurance company who you were collaborating with, and then you won the case, and then they got referred. You got referred to the FBI. And then you were charged with, well, you did 22 months and 3 years, but initially, you were looking at like 30 years worth of crimes, all while being innocent. And so we're going to go into that today. And maybe let's start with when you had your business, when you had your medical company. What were you actually doing in that business? What was it about?
Yes. So, I treated specifically, women who, uh, had or did have, breast cancer, and then men, women, and children who had different forms of cancer, not just breast cancer, um, that would affect their lymph glands, and, because cancer a lot of the times attacks lymph glands, and then once the lymph glands, um have cancer in them, it spreads through the body really quickly. So what happens is doctors will usually want to do treatment, chemo treatment, and other treatments, radiation on those lymph glands. And if they do that, a lot of the times those lymph glands become damaged or removed. A lot of times they'll have surgery and just take them out. Well, the lymph glands in our body, we have them all over. There are natural, basically disposal system in our body that gets rid of toxins and things that should be flushed out. And so when those lymph glands are damaged or removed, there's nowhere for that toxic fluid to go. And so it starts building up in the body. And this can cause all sorts of kind of medical problems if let untreated. And so what I specialized in is what's called lymphedema garments. And they were a very specialized medical garment that we would custom make to the patient depending on what their condition was, um, their what was going on. We'd work really close with the surgeons and the lymphedema therapists of exactly what they were wanting for their patient, what lymph glands were working, which ones were not, which ones were damaged. And so I would make these garments that the patient would put on in whatever area that had the affected lymph gland or damaged lymph gland or removed lymph gland. And these garments would push that toxic fluid that was building up to other lymph glands in the body that were working so that the toxic fluids could be flushed out naturally. And so this really improved patients' lives. It prevented surgery. A lot of the times it prevented any further type of amputation type surgery. And there was a lot that went into it. Um, I would have to go back and forth with the surgeons, go over chart notes, see the patient multiple times to get proper measurements, proper fit, figure out exactly how we were going to make this because they were all custom made. There was a lot. It wasn't just somebody coming in. This is what the insurance companies didn't understand. It wasn't just a patient coming in wanting a garment, we give them a garment, we bill the insurance, see you later, bye, we get paid. That's how they made it seem, and it was, quite a bit more than that, and they didn't care to understand that either. They had their story, they wanted to stick with it, and that they wanted to make me look like I was, fraudulent, and it was just
Then where did the thing start cracking?
yeah. So I'm going about my life, right? And we were open, right? Just like, my normal life. We're, open 6 days a week. I would take like one day off. And sometimes even then I worked.
Maybe just I'm sorry for interrupting, but maybe that's also something to keep in mind for everyone that when bad things happen, even in your case, all you do is you just go about your life. You don't need to do much in order for bad things to happen in life, generally speaking. If you want your life to crash, actually, the best thing to do is to do nothing. I think there's a statement in Alice in Wonderland. You in this town you need to run as much as possible just to stay in the same spot. Just in life, if you just stay at home and lay on a couch and do nothing.
No, it's crazy. So I am just, I'm working every day. Well, I loved what I did. So when I say that, that's not like, oh, I was working. But I mean, that's all I did. I'm helping patients. I go home, I go to sleep, I get up, I go do it again. And there was nothing more going on. Like, my goal was to have people feel better, be happy. It was very rewarding. And I had the business for a total of 10 years before everything fell apart. Um, at about year 8, I had 5 locations in 3 different states. I was in, Washington, I was in Oregon, and then I was in California. And, I was in Northern California, and, I had a house in Portland, Oregon, and then I had a condo, in San Francisco, and, I was going back and forth a lot, like, multiple times, a month. Yeah, I'd spend a handful of days in Northern California, I'd spend a handful of days in, Oregon and Washington, and I would just go back and forth a lot. Then I had employees, I had, medical trained employees that were managing my stores and, were trained on helping patients and that sort of thing. I kinda came in for the real specialized, conditions and, prescriptions, I would come in and do those. And so it was about year 8 in hindsight. I didn't know this at the time, but in hindsight, probably about year 8 out of the 10, the cracks started forming. And what in hindsight, I can see that insurance companies were really not happy that I was expanding. And I was expanding only because the medical community asked me to. Um, I was one person with, medical staff, and it wasn't like I had multiple business partners or anything that could help me out. So I personally wasn't looking to expand. I was very busy. Um, but the medical community kept coming to me and saying, "Hey, we really can use what you do to help our patients. Is there any way you could open a location closer?" Because a lot of times these patients were not able to commute to my facilities, and we'd have to see them multiple times. So it wasn't something for a lot of them that was easy, and I couldn't always get to them. I would do house calls and stuff if needed, but I wasn't always able to just go to anyone's place wherever they lived. And so um, over the years, you know, would open up a facility, if I got enough, you know, referrals from the medical community to do that. So, I was in, Northern California. I was in San Francisco. I had a location in Santa Rosa, and I was looking to expand in San Francisco. And, the insurance companies were really starting to not wanna pay. So it's a process to get paid by an insurance company anyways, when everything's even going perfect. You have to as a and this is hard as a business, and this is what people don't understand with different, medical, businesses and offices. It's really difficult for doctors and, medical staff and just medical businesses to get paid. So, from the insurance companies, you have to submit I can only speak for myself, but across the board, I know this is the case, but I would have to submit, documentation to get approval first. And then, once I got approval, then I could see the patient. But that whole process, you go, "Oh, okay, that's not that bad." But that whole process, was huge. It took a ton of time and effort. And so I would have to I'd not only have to have a prescription from the doctor, I mean, that's a given, right? But, would have to have medical chart notes from the doctor to, back up, um, the prescription to show, they weren't just writing a prescription, there was actual medical documentation showing that they needed, a product that I could render, and service. And then I also they started wanting me to have, not just a prescription and the medical chart notes from the doctor to prove, that the, medical garments were needed, but also what's called a letter of medical necessity. And so the doctor, and they don't have time for this, would have to write on their letterhead, a letter explaining that, "Yes, I do want my patient to see," my business was called Saffron's Specialized Medical, so they would say, "I do want my patient to see Saffron Specialized Medical for these particular products that I'm prescribing. This is the reason why. You can see in the chart notes that we've tried XYZ. They haven't worked. This is our last resort before surgery," or whatever that they were, saying. But they had to take the time to not only write the prescription, to gather up the medical chart notes to send to me, but also write a letter. I mean, it just got crazy, but that's what the insurance companies were expecting. Now, that didn't mean that they still approved it. So I had to send that all in, um, and then they would approve it. Once they approved it or not approve it, that's when I could, give the product to the patient and, see them and all of that. But that didn't mean I got paid. So once they're approved, that I do all the work, it takes hours and weeks and, sometimes months, to make the garment. I'd send it to the manufacturer would send it back to me. We'd fit it to the patient. Once the patient took the product and walked out the door with it, Then I could bill the insurance company, with the approval they gave me that already took forever to get, but with the approval and then all the my chart notes and my documentation and pricing and all of that um, with that, I'd send that in. Now they sometimes still denied it. And it didn't mean that I got paid right away. I usually got paid after that. It's already been probably, let's just say 6 weeks, right? And I'm out of money as a business. I've had to, pay all the, employees and the time and the actual materials and stuff to make the garment. I've already paid this as a business. Um so then, and this has been, probably 4, 6 weeks. Then I send in, for payment with my notes and the approval and all of that. Well, the insurance company can take their sweet time, and a lot of times they would take anywhere from a month to 6 months, to pay me, and they wouldn't always pay me. They still had the right to deny it even though they already approved it in writing. And so what happened about that year 8 time, um, they started denying. So I'd go through all that process. They approved it, everything, so I'm sending in for payment, knowing it could take anywhere from 1 to 6 months to actually get paid. But say about 3 months in of trying to get them to pay me, um, I started getting denials even though it was approved, and that is a risk dealing with insurance companies. They're known for that. It's notorious. But they don't usually do it over and over and over. They'll just do it every once in a while. It's a gimmick they use to not have to pay. It's ridiculous. But right. But when it was just insurance company after insurance company after insurance company after claim after claim, and I'm trying to run a business, I have to have money coming in to pay employees and rents and leases and material to make the garments and to give to the patients. It started getting absolutely ridiculous. And I always had lawyers, but I started to have my lawyers now start contacting the insurance companies and their lawyers to start getting payments because it was just silly. And so right around that time is when I was really battling a major massive insurance company um that was just not paying me on anything even though they'd give me approvals. And so my lawyers reached out to their lawyers, and it was just like, they'd say they would pay, but then I'd get a denial, and it was just like, but over and over and over. And this was a large enough insurance company that it was really affecting my business because I was spending money, but I'm not getting paid. And my expenses to run this type of business with multiple locations was very, very expensive. And so I needed those payments to come in from this insurance company that I seen a lot of their members. So a lot of my patients had this insurance company, and I couldn't turn them away. I had to see them. And so what my lawyers ended up suggesting was over, a lot of time of them talking with their lawyers and trying to get it figured out, and they would say it was figured out, but then they just wouldn't pay me. Is my lawyers is like, it's your choice, but you need to sue them. They owe you. We have it in writing. We have it documented that we've talked to them. We have it documented that their lawyers say that they're going to pay you, and yet we still don't get paid. And so I took the advice of my lawyers at the time, and we sued them. Long story super shortened is I ended up winning. It wasn't easy, but I ended up winning, and they were ordered to pay my business. And, it took them about another year for them to pay me fully. They just would make little payments every month, which was also ridiculous because this is a really large insurance company, and I was a very small business compared to what they deal with. I wasn't some massive hospital or anything like that. They could have easily, it was pennies to them. They could have paid me, um, with one payment and said, "Hey, nice doing business with you. Sorry about that. Here you go." But they didn't. They drug it out, for a year's time, for me to even get paid on all of that. And I wasn't asking for them to pay my lawyer fees or any damages that they had caused, me or my business for not paying me, right? Just literally pay me what you said you were gonna pay me. And, when they paid, like, the last $100 of the payment, I was in a conference meeting with my lawyers and their lawyers. It was over the phone. And, they threatened me, and, they said, that I better watch my back. And, they were not happy that they had to pay me this, right? And so my lawyers and myself, we didn't take that, like, super serious. We just thought they were poor sports. Like, they just can't, yeah, they just don't like that I won, and they're just poor sports. They had to pay the last $100 of what they owed me, and they were just, being nasty, whatever. We kinda laughed it off. And I knew they were gonna pull my contract with them at that point, and it was fine, like, whatever. I don't wanna do business with you anyways, you're ridiculous. Um, but we didn't take that threat super seriously. Like, why would you? Like, "Okay, I'm gonna carry on with business, I just won't do business with you. Have a nice day, bye." Well, it ended up, what happened, is they contacted the FBI directly. Major, massive insurance company. People are gonna listen. They contact the FBI, and they make claims.
Sorry to interrupt. One question. Are you able to, first of all, how much did they pay you?
$250,000.
Okay. Are you able to say which company or no?
Yeah, I can. It's Regents Blue Cross Blue Shield.
I knew it. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah, though. Motherfuckers. They don't have good reviews online anyway. Fuck them.
No, right? And they have a reputation of doing this. Yeah. So, but I didn't know that at the time. I was super naive to it, because I'm just like doing my business. I'm working with a lot of insurance companies. So I'm just, it's the stuff that I know now. I'm like, this is what they do. So they go to the FBI directly, and they say, I don't know exactly what they said, but clearly they said something to the point of they had suspicion of me doing money laundering and, wire fraud and mail fraud and, you name it, and I needed to be looked into. Well, so the FBI, this is stuff I know in hindsight. Obviously, I did not know it at the time. They're going to jump on that. It's not just a citizen calling it in. This is a major, major reputable uh, insurance company saying that in another medical company is taking advantage and that I need to be looked into. So they're gonna go. That's how they get paid. That's how the FBI gets paid. Um, they basically work on a commission type thing. So they want to get people who are committing fraud because if they get them convicted, they get, commission and bonus, and this is how their livelihood, which I think is ridiculous. You make money off of destroying people's lives. That's real cool. But that's what they do. So, and sometimes it's needed. I'm not saying it's all bad, but in my case, it was just absolutely absurd, and I have since learned that this happens to a lot of people, and it's really unfortunate. So um, anyways, so I'm just going about and I have no idea, right? No clue that something so drastic and massive is happening behind the scenes. I'm just thinking this insurance company, poor sport, poor loser. They don't want to do business with me anymore. That's okay. I don't want to do business with them either. I carry on. I think that's the end of it. I think that's the worst of it. Why would I think anything different? Well, I just happen to be in, San Francisco. I get a call, uh, early one morning that one of my locations it was inside a hospital, and the hospital called me and said that the, FBI was raiding my clinic in their hospital, and it was making their hospital obviously look really bad that there was all these FBI agents and police, and it was swarming, my clinic and their hospital, and, I needed to take care of this immediately, and I'm like, "What?" I can't even process what I'm hearing. Like, what are you whoa. Like, when I say all I do is work, that's really like, I'm just like this normal person. All I do is I get up, I go help patients, I go home, I go to bed, I get up, I go do it again. Like, I don't even have like a speeding ticket on my record. So for for me to get this information that FBI agents and police and just they're swarming my one of my clinics in the hospital, I am like, I literally can't even process. I don't even know what that means. So this happens at year 10 to kind of give a reference of this. And so I'm in shock. Right. And so I don't know what to do. I don't know how to process this. I don't know who to call. So I call the FBI directly. I didn't even know there was a FBI, like, in Oregon. It was an Oregon clinic that I was told they were raiding, so I just Googled, FBI in Oregon, found and never called them. And anyways, I ended up talking to they transferred me to, a main agent that was raiding my clinic in the hospital, and I talked to them thinking I could clear it up, like, "Oh, whoa." Like, and I'm still not thinking, like, criminal, right? Because I'm not that's not I'm not think I'm like, "I'm not a criminal, I'm not thinking that." And I'm just thinking, "Wow, did I mess up on taxes? Was there some paperwork I didn't file correctly? Gosh, I'll just give it to you. What do you need?" Is there, a patient complaint? Like, I have no idea what's going on. And I just know I could fix it, like, "You don't need to be doing this. You just tell me what you need. I will be more than happy to give it to you." Like, we don't need to be raiding my clinic and the hospital and all this stuff. And, so they informed me at that time, the FBI did, that they were raiding all of my clinic right then and there. And they were taking everything, and, they would like to meet with me, and that their headquarters were right next to the Portland airport. So since I was in San Francisco, I could just fly in that same day and they could meet with me. And I'm like, "How do you know I'm in San Francisco?" Because I went back and forth all the time. There was no set schedule. It was kinda where I was needed is where I would go. So I'm like, "You're following me." I didn't say this out loud, but in my head, immediately, I'm like, "Oh, they're watching me, they're following me. There's no way for them to know that I'm in San Francisco right this minute, that I needed to fly into back to Portland, Oregon." And so I, immediately got off the phone and I called my business lawyers. And I start telling them what happened, right? And I'm kind of freaking out. They start freaking out. And they're just like, "You need to talk to a criminal lawyer. We're your business lawyers. Don't say anything more. Don't talk to the FBI again. Don't talk to anybody. Let me call a criminal lawyer. They're going to call you." And so they did that. The criminal lawyer called me, and immediately the criminal lawyer was just like, "What did you do?" And I'm like, "I don't know." What do you mean, what did I do? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. And they were like, "Well, tell me what you did so that I can help you. Because if you don't tell me, I can't help you because 'cause you're in a lot of trouble. FBI doesn't just start raiding people's businesses unless you did something?" And I'm like, I have I was clueless. I'm like, "I have no idea. I'm freaked out." I was told at that time to be prepared to be arrested at any time, that I was going to prison, and I remember saying, "Well, I don't even have a speeding ticket, like, I can't go to jail." And I was just being like, now it sounds really stupid, but this is I was trying to process this, and I'm like, I mean, I maybe could for, like, a weekend or something, but, like, I've gotta get back to work. That was, like, my instant reaction, like, did I mess up on some paperwork and they gotta just penalize me for, like, a couple days or whatever? Okay, let's just do that. I gotta get back to work. I have lots of patients. I have lots of stuff going on. And the criminal lawyer was just very blunt and was like, no, we'd be looking at federal prison and they're gonna try to get you to go for many, many years. My job is because they wouldn't be doing this. Whatever you did, they would not be doing this unless they felt like they were going to put you away for many years to federal prison. So be prepared for that. My job is to get you the least amount of time. And so the quicker and the sooner you tell me what you did, the quicker and sooner I can help you and we can get this resolved as best as we can. And I'm like, what is like 2 hours ago, I'm just like you know, living a normal life. And now I'm being told that my businesses are being raided by the FBI. Like, that's out of the movies. Like, what? And that, my life as I knew it is no longer, and I'm looking at federal prison time, and it's not if, it's just how much federal and I'm like, and that I could be arrested at any time, and I'm just like, "What?" I literally can't even process this, like, at that time. I didn't even I had no, I mean, I knew what the words meant, I don't mean it like that, but, like, I just couldn't even comprehend what was being said to me, um and I remember saying something like, "It sounds so stupid," but I was just like, "I can't go to prison, like, I'm a girl." Like, I'm just like, because 'cause I'm thinking, like, hardcore prison and you get killed or and I'm just like, "I don't get in trouble, I'm just a girl, and I just all I do is work with." And the lawyer didn't think that was very funny, and I wasn't trying to be funny, it was just my first response. I'm like, "What? This is not my world. I don't know anything about this. This is very scary." And, so this all happened on a Friday. And so the criminal lawyer was like, I'll reach out to the FBI. I'll find out what charges they have against you." And I'm like, "Charges?" Because I'm not even thinking this is like, what? I don't charges against me? Why would I have charges? I'm super naive to this. And they were like, "Yeah, we'll try to figure that out." This was right before Halloween, and so they were like, I'm gonna take my kids out trick or treating, and I'll get back to you. So I'm gonna leave the office early today, and I'll get back to you on Monday. And I'm just like, what? And then they were like, I'm super just like, you're talking about going trick or treating with your kids, and I just was told that, like, my life is over. Like, I don't even. What are you talking about? And I have to now sit through a weekend and simmer in this of unknown hell, and you're telling me to figure out what I did wrong to tell. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Do I continue on with business? Like, I didn't know anything. I know, I was just like, so, like, I don't understand what's going on. And, it was just that it was such a nightmare, and I remember the criminal lawyer was like, "Well, I gotta go because I have to be in court right now, I gotta go to court, for a murder case." And I'm like, "I am talking to a lawyer that deals with murderers? Like, like, I don't even have a speeding ticket, like, this is absolutely insane. I, I mean, I lost it, like, I was so upset, I couldn't even cry. There was, like, no emotion, I was so upset, I had no emotion. I was just blank and, terrified. I did not know what was happening. It was horrible. I don't wish it on my worst enemy.
Is something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Starting therapy can be hard. The right therapist for you may not be in your area. BetterHelp is now sponsoring this podcast. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. With BetterHelp, you can have your therapy session as a phone call, as a video chat, or even via messaging if you prefer that. If you think you might benefit from therapy, consider BetterHelp. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/Captainese. Clicking that link helps you support this channel, and it also gives you a 10% off your first month of BetterHelp so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. Again, go to betterhelp.com/Captainese. Clicking that
Well,
link
what's
gives you
interesting?
10% off your
Interesting is
first month of
because
therapy.
people, I mean, I guess it really shows the innocent naivety here because people usually try to figure out how to not talk to the FBI when they're being called. You call them yourself. And which I'm sure that it was a very happy moment for the FBI agent that you called, I believe, for receiving a call from the very person. And I think that the criminal lawyers, I heard that whether you're guilty or not, The best ones are the ones that seem kind of cold because they're not interested. They know how they know what the fuck is going on. Like they're not interested in truth even. They're just interested in knowing how to play the game with the right strategy. Um and also you said there were multiple charges. I think that once your business is marked as illegal, every business transaction becomes a felony. So wiring money is going to be wire fraud. Mailing paperwork is going to be mail fraud. Expending is going to be money laundering. And I think also when it comes to raids, sometimes raids are not about collecting evidence, but asserting a narrative dominance. So because they waited until you were out of state, also because you were in San Francisco, you were not at your home, you were not present. That's also tactical and psychological. So maximum fear, minimum ability to respond in person. But at least you were notified because delayed notifications are also legal. In many cases, the residents don't learn that their property is being searched until weeks later. Thanks to the sneak and peek warrants. It's good in some cases, as we said, but in your case, not really. But what I'm trying to figure out is, n- I mean, you actually won a court case, and if that insurance company really believed that you were doing something wrong, why would they pay the full amount anyway? You know what I mean? Yeah. Why do you pay $250,000 to someone who's fraud?
Exactly, and if they really thought I was fraudulent and they didn't owe that, they would have appealed it. They didn't. They wouldn't have paid, and it would have been a long court battle, and they probably would have won only because I wouldn't have the finances to fight them anymore. So, my theory on that is they had a game plan the whole time. They knew that the medical, community kept wanting me to open up different clinics. The insurance company didn't wanna keep paying me. They were like, "How can we get her out?" And, this was a really good way to get me out.
What evidence did they have in that proved that you were committing fraud? What did they bring to the court?
Uh, in my opinion, absolutely nothing. So they tried to show that I was, gouging, the insurance company, price-wise, um, and that was basically it. Oh, and um, they also said that there was, I did taxes wrong and I wasn't paying taxes, and, it was all silly that it could be easily proven that I was on a payment plan with the IRS for taxes, so that wasn't true, and, it was just, that particular year, I owed more taxes than I thought I was going to, and so I had to do, like, a payment plan. It was getting paid off. There was no, um, hiding it or not paying it. I was in full contact with the IRS, there was no problems. So, I mean, that's just, like, made up, and then the medical fraud, the only thing that they could come up with is, and this is a matter of opinion, in my opinion, it's a matter of opinion, they thought I was price gouging, and, it's like, "Okay, well, then." Yeah, they were custom made, there was no set price. So I had the right to set the price, and it was the insurance companies, they were then they would agree to the price or they wouldn't. Or they could come back and say, "We'll pay, 50% of that," which a lot of times that's what they would do. Or they could say they pay 100% and then just never pay me. I mean, it was always in the insurance company's hands of what I had no rights. It was all in their rights. I simply would provide the information and then they would pay what they wanted to pay. So even that, it's like I could have charged $1,000,000 for a garment. That doesn't mean I'm gonna get paid $1,000,000. They could pay me 0, if they wanted to, and it would yeah, and that's up to the insurance company. I could fight them on it, but then that costs me money as a business, and, so that's it's not it's so I mean, yeah, you could say I was price gouging them if you didn't understand what I did and the time that it took and this and that, but it was still up to the insurance company regardless of what I charged them if and what they were gonna pay. Um, so even if you thought, if the FBI and the prosecution team and all that thought I was charging too much money, okay, it's called capitalism. I have the right to do that. It was still up to the insurance company to decide what they were going to pay regardless of what I billed them. Just because I billed them something, that's not what they paid ever.
And so, as I understand, they said that in case you didn't take the plea deal, they were gonna pump up some more charges, like conspiracy, for instance, which is the easiest one to add on. It's like a go-to add-on, even here in Slovenia. Conspiracy is a good one because all it takes is four people to testify that you did something, and they sometimes don't even need to have undisputed proof. And there you have it. Yeah, it's a very good one. Yeah. What were your lawyers saying? What strategy did they then take? What was the taking the plea deal was the best in their opinion?
So I didn't want to do the plea deal. I was like, this is BS. Absolutely no way. I mean, all of this is crazy. I am not pleading guilty. Are you kidding me? And they highly advised that I do take the plea deal because they wrote up a 14-page legal document for me to read. And the 14 pages of legal stuff was listing 14 pages worth of stuff that they're like, "This is what they're gonna come after you on. If you do not do the plea deal, like, you're gonna be in prison for life." Like, I mean, they're that you will not win. And I'm like, "There's nothing they don't have anything on me. This is all made up." So that was my take on it is, well, we can prove that they're just making this up. This is not real. They can say anything they want, but there's no proof of that. It's just not and then that's when they were like, "Yeah, but they're gonna do the conspiracy thing, and then that's, a minimum of 10 years that they're gonna slap on you, and they're probably gonna slap a lot more on you than that, on top of what they were already asking. This wasn't, like, just 10 years, it was they were already asking for, like, 30 years, and then they were gonna slap on another 10, and then they were like, they're gonna go after this, they're gonna go after that, they're gonna go after that, and they're gonna ask for the maximum amount of time because now you're embarrassing them and you're costing them money to continue the fight. And so they're gonna come after you like you don't even know. You think this is bad? Oh, this is nothing. And then they're gonna come after your family, your friends, anyone that was ever connected to you and the business, ever. They're going after them just the same. It do not do this. If you want to, we'll represent you, but we're highly advising you to not do this because what was told to me is they couldn't sleep at night. They did have a conscience, a lawyer that has a conscience, but that they wanted to make sure that I really knew what I was doing. And if I still wanted to go forward, they would represent me. But they were letting me know this was not in my best interest and that my life would be over if I went forward. And if I wanted to do that, go for it. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I know, never happens, but I gotta say, I did have yeah. Yeah, yeah, and that's what they said. They said, "If you wanna pay me, I will represent you, but I am telling you now, you're not gonna win, and it's gonna be way worse." And the 14 pages was all the things that they and their experience was probably gonna happen to me if I didn't take the plea deal. 14 pages worth of, like, tiny print of things that they were pretty clear that the prosecution and FBI were gonna come after me on. And so, I mean, I think I read only half of it. I couldn't even read the whole thing, and I started, like, throwing up, like, on the side of the road. I mean, it was just, like it was sickening. It was absolutely sickening what was happening. And I never knew that something like this could happen to somebody. Super naive. I thought, bad people get in trouble.
It shows Yeah, sometimes no, sometimes bad people even advance. It really shows how federal conviction rates shape defense strategy. It basically puts your lawyer in damage control mode. And just for the audience, for those who don't know, in the federal system in the U.S., I think about 98% of federal cases end in conviction. So, and the overwhelming majority of those are plea deals. And of the few that do go to trial, the government wins almost all of them. So, and I think one of the biggest factors why there is such a high conviction rate, it's also these federal sentencing guidelines, which I think that the U.S. should work on. I know it's pretty grandiose of me here, citizen in Slovenia, telling what the U.S. government should work on. But for instance, if you have a plea deal, you're gonna get like 2 to 3 years. If you have a trial loss, you're gonna get 10 to 20 plus years. So this difference we call a trial penalty. And the defense attorneys must factor this in when advising clients. So the defense lawyers, which they should, they think in probabilities, not morality. So they ask, what is the conviction risk at trial? What is the sentencing exposure if we lose? And is the plea substantially lower? Although I do have a problem with plea deals having less harsher punishments at conviction than those who fight it. Um, Hmm. Well, I mean, I understand that judges may view the refusal to plead as like a failure to accept responsibility. So the sentencing guidelines, I guess, they can provide like reductions for acceptance of responsibility. But in practice, the plea deal actually, I think, rewards efficiency more than anything else. Because I mean, you can ask, what is the strongest justification for why people who plead guilty receive lighter sentences than those who go to trial? And I think that if every defendant actually exercised their right to go to trial, the criminal justice system would collapse. So federal courts have handle tens of thousands of cases annually, and jury trials are slow and expensive and resource heavy. So, and judges and prosecutors and public defenders and courtrooms are limited. So, I mean, there are good arguments for it, but I think I have a problem knowing that exercising a constitutional right exposes someone to dramatically harsher punishment. So maybe the solution isn't eliminating plea deal bargaining, but reducing extreme asymmetry between 2 to 3 years as opposed to 30 years. Because here it's almost a no-brainer. It should be um, anyway. What was I? What was that? Yeah. How did you feel? What was going through your mind signing a plea deal to something you didn't do?
It was horrible. So I that was that was the only criminal thing I felt that I ever did. I'm like, "This is a lie. This is so sickening." Um, it's like the mafia, it's organized crime. I literally had, a gun to my head, metaphorically, of course, but, and it was like, you have to sign it or you're dead. And so, literally, so I had to sign it. It was absolutely disgusting. I felt that was the only criminal thing I did. It was a lie. I did not agree to any of it. I had to sign it though to save my life basically because it was going to be where I would probably die in prison. And I'm like, over what? Oh, like over just literally nothing for being alive. And and it wasn't just me, it was threatening to come after friends and family that ever had anything to ever do like, so if I had a friend that maybe worked, for me for a month, 5 years ago, they were gonna go after them, that kinda thing. I had family members that were helping me, that were on payroll, didn't work in my business, but, like, would help me, like, with bills, paying bills or, just some paperwork filing and stuff like that, they were gonna go after them, and I'm like, "What?" So, it wasn't just to save myself, I was being threatened that they were gonna go after friends and family, and I couldn't do that. Like, okay, I guess what do I have to sign so that what I'm going through right now doesn't happen to anybody else? This is absolutely insane. So, off from my lawyer's heavily advice, I did sign that plea deal, and it was sickening. It was just like, "This is horrible. This is such a lie." Because you're right then and there, as soon as you sign that, you're admitting guilt. And I didn't understand the tactics they use to make you do a plea deal. I mean, I was super naive to this whole thing, and, I think a lot of people, the majority of people are. And so people think that if you signed a plea deal, then you're automatically guilty and you were just trying to get a lesser sentence and a better way out. And that's like, no, you don't understand what they're doing to you. You do not have a choice. They say you have a choice, you don't have a choice. It's a lie. And, of course, there's situations out there where it benefits someone to do a plea deal. Of course, there's situations. But, that's not the majority of the case. I think the majority of the cases are similar to mine where they want to fight it, because they're like, this is ridiculous what you're doing to me. But they literally don't have a choice. There's a gun to your head, and they're like, we're going to pull the trigger unless you sign this. So guess what? You're going to sign it. And it's just it's sickening. It's sickening how the system works, and, what very little the general public knows of what's actually going on behind the scenes. They just see, like, the headline news, you know, um, XYZ person and company signed, plea deal, they're guilty, blah, and then, people are like, "Yeah," and it's like, "Oh, but you don't know actually what's going on here." It's not that black and white.
I mean, just signing your freedom away on something you didn't do in a system where you thought the institutions worked well. I mean, that does kind of make it can make you bitter. You don't seem bitter, which I'm very happy about. I talked to on my podcast actually, I had someone who was falsely accused and then coerced into confessing to a crime he didn't do, and that was a rape, and he got sentenced to 12-year maximum security prison for rape before they found out he was actually innocent. And they said, "Oops, I'm sorry about that." You called the FBI agent and you talked to him. Was there something that you said that they later on used against you?
Nothing that I said. Um I I'd I kept it pretty, straightforward of just like, "Hey, can I give you why are you doing this? Can I give you any information? I'll give it to you so you don't have to do this." So, luckily, I, didn't say anything that they could spin around and use. So no, there wasn't anything that I said that they used against me. Um, there wasn't really much they could use against me, but I've learned they don't have to have really anything to use against you. They can say whatever they want and force you into a plea deal, and then they're done. There you go. So I ended up I still had to go to court, and, because it was a process. Even though I did the plea deal, the judge still looks at everything, and they have to sentence you or whatever, and I was really, really hoping that the judge would be like, "You've been through enough. Your life is completely destroyed." Because at this point now it's been like, almost like 3 years of just completely my life destroyed, lost the business, had to start over. I don't know what's gonna happen to me. Like, just, like, the worst you're in purgatory. Absolute you're in hell on earth, you're in purgatory. It was for 3 years. And so I was really hoping that the judge would just be like, "You've been through enough. This is absolutely ridiculous. You know, um, you've pled, we're gonna fine you or whatever, and you can just carry on with your life. You've been through enough." That's what I was hoping. I was super naive. That was not the
What
case.
were your coping mechanism during this period, knowing that your life can be gone at any point? What would obviously you cannot think about it every single day, every single minute because it's going to ruin you.
I did though. It was every second of every minute of every day for 3 years. And I just would put on a happy face. Nobody knew, right? The my close family members and very, very close friends knew what was going on, but nobody else knew. And I just started in another career and did the best I could. And I was still helping people in the medical community, so I dove into that. And so if I was helping people, that made me happy, you know. But always in the back of my head, because I'm like, if somebody was looking at me for too long, I'm like, are they going to come over and arrest me? Is that an undercover cop? Like, yeah, like all day, every day. If a police car was coming up behind my car just driving, I'd start having a panic attack. Like, "Oh, no, is this it?" And for 3 years, and then, like, at any time, I'm like, they could come to my house and, raid my house and, you know, arrest me, and so, I always felt like I was safe at night. This is me making it up. This isn't true, but I just felt like they wouldn't come get me at night, and so as soon as it turned dark, for 3 years, I would feel safe. I wasn't, but in my head, I did, and so all through daylight in the day, it was just constantly in my mind that, I could be arrested, my life could be crashing down even worse than it was at any time. I could be thrown into prison, like, it was just horrible, absolutely horrible. It's like, you're a sitting duck and you know that you have a target on your back and you're gonna get shot, you just don't know when or where. And it was, 3 years of that is just beyond, like, horrible to live with day in and day out. Um, so the judge so I was really hoping I wasn't gonna get sent to prison because I literally could not comprehend that. And, I didn't even know, like, what would that mean? What would that entail? Like,
Do you have, by the way, do you have any psychological consequence of that waiting period? Because I've been there, done that. Not for 3 years though, but I know it's oh, fucker. Do you still have any consequences?
yeah, just in my own mind, I've really gotten over it now, but, as best as I can, but honestly, I'm still, like, I get something in the mail, I g I kind of I don't even wanna open the mail, like, because 'cause I'm like, "What if it's something bad?" I just don't even wanna look at it. My email, every when I go check my email, there's still a tinge of, "Oh god, please don't have anything bad in here." Like, still to this day, and there's no reason. I'm done with everything now, and I can talk about it legally. There's nothing, right? But it's so ingrained in me of having to live like that, that at any moment, something really, really bad is gonna pop up, that it's still, if I hear a car come. It's probably just like a FedEx or a UPS driver or something, but if I'm not expecting someone, I'm like, Why is somebody coming to my house?" Like it's just, and I was never like that before, and, it's just, yeah, so I don't live my life in fear at all, but there's, I have PTSD for sure on this whole thing, and it's still, I hope someday it completely goes away, but it is not gone, and I'm still daily, like, I'm freaked out, like, just for a second, but just that, like, that, like, gasp, like, "Please don't let there be anything bad. Please, please, please. Okay, there's nothing bad." But it's every day, and I hope
Well, you have
someday that
people
goes away.
who do live all of their lives like that. I'm talking about the people who don't want to live their lives like that because there are actually people who quite enjoy it and they cannot live without feeling like that. What was then federal prison like?
Yeah, so I got sentenced to federal prison, and I was just, like, in shock. I was just like, "How could they do this to me after everything I've already been through? Now how can you say that I've been in purgatory, you have destroyed me, you've destroyed my name. I can never go back to the business I put my whole heart into for years and years and years." And like, so now you're gonna send me after all that? Like, talk about kicking you when you're down, right? You smashed me as much as you could, and now you took all my money too. I lost my house, lost all my money, lost everything. So I had nothing. And luckily I had family members that, could help me, but lost literally, when I say everything, I mean everything. I had the clothes, that were on my back. I had clothes and I had a car. I didn't lose my car. They were trying to take my car, but my lawyer was able to get them not to take my car. So I had a car and I had my clothes. That's it. And that's everything I had to show for my life. And so I went to federal prison. It ended up being I was sent to the Dublin federal prison in Dublin, California. And it was just horrible. It was like, just it was a rancid place. It was absolutely disgusting. There was mold everywhere. It was the guards were mostly all men, and they were very abusive, mentally, sexually, um, just every which way. It was horrible. We were yelled at constantly. We were told that we were ugly and fat and horrible and cursed at, foul language, but like yelling, so men yelling at you like constantly. And there was a lot of sexual abuse that was going on.
Isn't that the prison that actually got shut down because of this abuse at some point?
Yep. Due to it was dubbed the rape prison, and it got permanently shut down in December of 2024 due to, sexual abuse, and abuse in general, but it wouldn't have gotten shut down just over abuse, but they had so much proof of actual rape and sexual abuse that, they came in and shut it down permanently.
Did you see any sexual abuse between females, like inmates? Because I know that in male prison that happens a lot, the sexual abuse. I'm not sure about the female prisons. Never actually interviewed a female prisoner. Should have done that.
Yeah, now I know that goes on, but I did not witness any female on female, abuse, at least not where I was at. I think the abuse was so strong from the male guards that just didn't happen. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I was sent to the background.
Right? But I do know that happens in the prison system. I just didn't experience it. I didn't know of that happening where I was at. Just But the abuse was so bad on the other side, I just don't think that was gonna happen. Not to say that it never did, I wasn't aware of that. But yeah, I had a couple friends that I'm still good friends with, and I probably will be for life, that were, heavily sexually abused at the prison. And one of them was a huge, part in helping the FBI take down the prison because there was so much proof of what happened to her. And, it was horrible. Yeah. So prison's bad enough, but then get sent into a prison that you're, like, highly abused so much that they actually shut down the prison permanently. That's gotta tell you how bad it was. Because all prisons are
What
abusive.
were your coping mechanisms in prison? Because you're at the low of the low. Like you're basically in hell for this time. How are you coping? What was
And this is something that people don't understand. It doesn't go away. It's not like you clock into hell from 9 to 5 and then you get a break. No, it's 24/7. 24/7, it's hell. It doesn't there's no break. And that's something I don't think people can comprehend or understand. It is constant. So the whole time you're there, you're in hell and there's no break. And so I and I'm big on like, okay, meditating, I'm really spiritual, all this stuff, but it was so horrible you couldn't even do that. There screaming and yelling and crying and abusive behavior 24/7. There was no space that I could be like, okay, I'm gonna meditate and I'm gonna, center myself. No. And so I this was just what I did. So I'm typically a very happy person. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm in hell and I have to accept that. And I'm going to have fun in hell. But I'm going to have as much fun as I can. I can sit here and just, cry every day and join the pity party that was very valid. There's a good reason to have a pity party in there and to cry. But I was like, that's not going to help me. That's not going to help me feel better. And that's just going to add more negativity onto the negativity. And so I was like, what can I do to combat all this negative? You could like feel the negativity in the air. Like, I'm not even joking. You could tangibly feel it. It was so horrible. Literally in hell. Hell on earth. Like, really, really hell. And it looked like hell too. It was just the most disgusting looking place. And, I'm like, "You know what? It's gonna piss at all these officers that are just total assholes. It's gonna piss everyone off if I'm just really happy all the time." And so that's what I decided to do. That's how I got through it, is I was going to laugh as much as I could. I was gonna smile as much as I could. I was going to be nice to everybody as much as I could. I was gonna try to get to know people if they were willing to talk to me. I was gonna try to get to know them. It was a working camp, so you had to have a job and you had to work there. And so one of my many jobs I had while I was there was working in the kitchen, which is funny because I don't cook at all. Not I barely microwave, like I can boil water, that's about it. And like no joke. And so that was like really funny that they had me in the kitchen. I'm like, "Oh, I am not that person." So what I ended up doing, and I am not that person, they found that out quickly, is so in the yeah, in the kitchen, they had me just, like, hand out the food, and so the inmates would come in with trays, and then I would hand out the food, and I would do dishwashing and cleaning and that sort of thing. So, but what I did when I was handing out the food in the food line, I was like, "This is a really good way that I can get to know, all the inmates' names, and this is a good way that I can greet them and maybe make them feel good for 2 seconds," right? Because there was no feeling good at this place. And so, that's what I did, and it made me happy, because I like helping people, so that makes me happy. And so inmates would come in, just so very solemn-faced and, because it was you're in hell, right? It's not against them, it's just, like, not a fun place. There's no smile, there's no nothing, no even eye contact. And so I would greet them, and get to learn their name or the name they went by. A lot of people didn't obviously use their real name, they had nicknames and stuff, but I find out what they like to go by, and I would, you know you know, it "Hi, Susie, how are you doing today? Do you want that oatmeal with sugar or without sugar? Oh, okay, well, here" and I would do that with every single one of them. And the guards did get mad at me, but there was no official rule saying I couldn't do that, because they didn't want me talking, but I'm like, "Well, too bad, I am." And, so after being there for a little while, I actually had some of the women it did irritate some of the women because they did not wanna talk to me, and I found out who those were, and I wouldn't bug them if I seen them in line, but a lot of the women came to me over time and said that they really appreciated that because there was no positive interaction there, and also that nobody would, call them by the name that they like to go by, and so it was nice that because you'd get, the officers would call you by your last name, and it was just very or your number, and it was just very degrading, you're not a real person. Um, and so I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna change that, that's ridiculous." Unless they wanted to go by their last name. If they did, I respected that, but, if they wanted to go by their first name or their nickname or whatever, I was gonna try to remember that, and I was gonna try to greet them with that in the morning, lunch, and dinner. And try to figure out, like, what they liked and remember that, and I'm really good at that kinda thing, and so, um, a lot of the women came to me and said, that actually really helped their day, and they looked forward to it because that was, like, one little positive interaction they could have through the day, and so that made me feel better, and that's really how I coped, getting through all of that was, in my mind, I'm like, "I'm still helping people the best way that I can in this situation." And then that makes me happy.
You guys in the US have a debt that has grown to 1 trillion in the past 3 months, while your economy only grew by 5.5 trillion in the past 3 years. How's that one for you? I can offer you a degree of safety against inflation. You can now be less miserable about the prices, which seem to always rise more than expected, as the inflation just won't go away. Look, the government isn't going to take care of you, so forget the protests and do it yourself. Take matters into your own hands is what successful people do. I decided to help my audience shelter their assets and diversify them into gold, which is something that has always been used by the rich to preserve wealth throughout the history. Birch Gold Group makes the process straightforward. They can help you convert your existing IRA or a 401k account into a tax advantage physical gold IRA without any of the out pocket costs. Just text Captainese to 989898
and receive their free info kit on gold IRAs that is packed with insider information on how gold and silver can protect your savings. I've checked out their references before partnering with them, and their endorsements include Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, and Ron Paul, and I trust these people. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, Gold now has 5-star reviews and thousands of happy customers. Birch Gold Group is the nation's #1 gold IRA provider. To learn more, text Captainese to 989898 and claim your free info kit on gold IRAs. You also have the link in the description below. It also helps that you have a date because you know you're getting out. That's motivation itself. Imagine being life. Uh, I think that's an even bigger risk of making you bitter. I think in prison, when you're in these type of situations, in hell, for instance, I think this is where you really can discover your real personality. It's different because some people become aggressive, some people become bitter, some people become depressed, some people use humor. That's me. I use humor. That really helps me. Some people say, hey, let's make the best of it, which is what you did, right? You tried to find some positives in this. Are you still paying? How much was the fine? And I assume you're still paying that.
Oh, definitely still paying it. So, there's 2 different fines. So I have yes, I have restitution from the government, and then I have, IRS came after me big time, because my business was shut down. So now I can't pay them. Right? I don't have the money. And, I was able to pay them, and I was paying them, but my business immediately got shut down by the government, so now I can't pay the IRS because I don't have the money, and so I'm still dealing with the IRS. I mean, they're yeah, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. And yeah, yeah, and they tack on interest, daily interest, and I'm like, "Okay, I really don't know what to tell you. The government did this to me. This is not me, not paying my taxes or, it's like the government did this to me. I'm sorry, but I don't know." So, I'm dealing with the IRS on that, but the restitution and it's a lot of money to the IRS, a lot. I'm like, "Okay, well, yeah." And then restitution is, uh, I it's a lot too. It's like, somewhere around, like 1.5 million or something, that I owe, and yeah, right. And, and so I'm just like, "Well, that's funny. That's great. I don't know where you think I'm gonna get this money, but you took everything of mine. I don't," and this money was paid to my business. You destroyed my business. I don't so they're making me personally pay this. That money was never personally to me, it was to my business. But now I personally have to pay. And, it's just it doesn't even make sense. But, it at this point, it is what it is. And so I have to make monthly payments based on the income I'm making to them. And, which is difficult too because once you're labeled at least in the US, once you're labeled as a felon, it does not leave your record. You're for life. Scarlet letter, you are a felon, and people don't want to hire you. And, it doesn't matter how much education you have, how much, work experience you have, they just see felon, and they're like, "No." And, so it's not just as easy as, "Oh, well, go get a job and pay off your debt." You're like, "Well, you're making this," you're stacking on the difficulty. You're charging me with restitution that is absolutely ridiculous for any normal person to have to pay. This is restitution that was towards my business. You destroyed my business. So now you're making me personally pay. But then you're making it so personally, it's really hard for me to find a job that could ever pay that kind of money. I mean, it's just so even when you're out of and you're done with the prison system and that whole nightmare and that whole thing, they make it so that you're kind of destroyed for life. Now, I won't be. I'm fine. I'm a different type of person. I'm gonna come out of this just fine. It sucks, don't get me wrong, but like I'm okay. But they set it up for people to continue to fail. And they set it up for people to go back into the prison system because it is a money making business. The prison system in the US is a business, and people don't realize that either. And it's a very high money making business. It's a profitable business. Their goal is to destroy you as much as you can so that you are tempted to go now do things that that you can make money, and that will put you right back into the prison system again so that they can continue to make money off of you. And I see this over and over and over. It's not gonna happen to me, like, I'm a little bit different story, but this is what I see happening. And it's of no fault to the person getting thrown back into the prison system, they're just trying to survive, but the government is making it's a game. It's a like you were saying earlier, it is a total game. They know this is what's gonna happen to the majority. And so they know that they're gonna go right back into the prison system. They're gonna make another bonus and commission check off of them, and the prison system is just gonna keep getting money and keep getting funded, and it is a total business on human lives, and it just makes me sick. I absolutely think it's the most disgusting thing. And I would never know this is what's going on if I didn't go through it. I would have no idea.
And what are you doing today?
So, my goals right now is I am working on doing a nonprofit. It will be based out of Southern California, but a nonprofit for women coming out of the justice system. Just based off of what I was just saying, I'm like there needs to be something for these women if they want to be able to have safe housing, to have transportation, safe transportation, to have, the ability to actually get a real career job, not just a job that's an extension of the prison system that's gonna throw them right back in, but actually a real career job and not be judged because they have a or felony on their record, like, that's just ridiculous. So, I have a system in place to help with that. I'm working right now, with an investor to open up another, business to get my life back on track, but in part of that is I'm going to be hiring women, coming out of the justice system, um, for a real career job through this business that I'm working on, so that I can give them a chance to get a resume put together and to move forward and not be judged because they have a felony on their record. And I'm hoping that in time through that I can convince other reputable companies to do the same thing. If I can prove like, I hired these women, they were great employees and they're just wanting, a foot in the door to move forward in life. I'm hoping that I can get other companies on board with that, with my nonprofit, so that they also will give these women a chance and so that they can move forward and not be stuck in the system and keep repeating the cycle and feeding more money into the, justice system, which is what they want. I wanna give these women a chance and
I think as a sacrificial lamb. Let's say there are a few people who are innocent like yourself, and they get wrapped up in something bad, and then they just go down the rabbit hole that they shouldn't go down because they don't deserve that. Let's call them sacrificial lambs. I think it's almost a responsibility to then transcend that and to make something good out of it. And I think maybe this is philosophical, but maybe the reason why you are picked as a sacrificial lamb is because the way you are supposed to make it. Like you're supposed to come out of it and produce something that is then beneficial to the society at least, so that the butterfly effect of the shit that happened to you is actually net positive. Which is something that you're doing, and which a lot of the previous guests in my podcast have been doing. And believe me, they've been through shit. But now on the society, when you put the sacrificial lambs back into the society becomes better. Like it actually benefits from them. I'm not saying what happened to you should happen. It was horrible. But if we're dealing with what is done, then that's actually that's actually what I believe. Um, Now, all right. Yeah, yeah. And you're doing a good thing. So But sorry, what happened? Thank you for thank you for thank you for your services today. Sorry, what happened? But if that didn't happen, then the society wouldn't have it.
Right.
That's the
Yeah,
best argument.
no, that's how I look at it too, because people are like, "How can you not be, like, bitter and hateful?" Right? And I'm like, "Well, honestly, I choose to look at it as, yeah, super sucks. I hate that I had to go through it and that I'm even still dealing with it, but, given that I did and I've had to and I am, is, well, let's turn it around and let's help people. Let's make this a positive thing, and there would be no way in the world that I would have any idea how to help these women, if I didn't go through it. I would have no idea. Even if somebody told me, I would not have the understanding of what they've been through and what needs to happen if I literally didn't experience every little thing. And so I look at it that way too. It was, I had to go through that. If that is I feel like it's my life purpose now. And if that's my life purpose, guess what? There's absolutely no way that I could do my life purpose if I didn't go through all the pain and the horrible stuff, that everyone going through that goes through, except, a lot of people go through it way worse than what I did. I just got a little dose of it. It's way worse than that for most people. So, yeah, I feel exactly the same way. Like, well, I had to go through it, even though it's horrible. I had to go through it to know how to help.
Yeah. Somehow you're helping now as much or more people than you helped before with your business. Yeah, but do you know that like the worst things that happened to me in my life were actually the biggest personality upgrade, which is so weird. It's so weird.
Well, and I was always, I always cared about people, and I would say I was always genuinely like a nice person, but it is completely different now. I mean, I have 0 judgment towards anybody. I don't care what you did or what happened. I don't judge you. I am way more sympathetic. I'm much more caring. I care way more. Like, it's just it's like it took, like, what I was, but, like, emphasized it times a trillion, and how else could that happen, unless you also went through something just tragic and horrible, to have a reference for.
You would be a great correctional officer. Tell me, where can people find you?
I wrote a book. My name is Saffron, Voices Silenced and Stifled Away. You can get that on Amazon. So you can definitely find me there in my story. It's much more detailed. A lot of crazy stuff. And then you can find me on Instagram. Um, my name is Saffron Book, and Facebook as well, Saffron Gustafson, which is my full name, and you can find me on Facebook as well. Yeah, and I welcome people to reach out to me if you have questions, or anything like that. I try to always answer them and be helpful in that as well. So absolutely, reach out to me if needed.
And at the moment, I'm reading your book actually because everyone she actually sent me a copy physically. I would go get it, but I'm actually the bottom part is actually I'm in underwear, so I'm not gonna I'm not gonna do that. But but yeah, it's you guys go get it. I'm gonna put the link in the description below. Yeah, that's great. All right. Okay, so that was a really good interview. Thank you so much for coming on this
Can't
podcast.
say that, but I do know this.